As an English teacher, I'm very concerned with the literacy crisis that we have here, and particularly in America. You don't have to go too far online to see that digital literacy, media literacy, text literacy, all the literacy just isn't quite there. And in my opinion, a part of that problem is because a lot of schools have gotten rid of novel studies in the classroom. And they've done so because it does not meet the state testing template. When you take a state test, you see a short text, you answer it with either a writing prompt or oftentimes a multiple choice option. And so in order to bring up those test scores, it's encouraged to ditch the novel and to do short form text reading and responses. Because of this, students, not only with it being in a world of social media and clickbait and all the quickness that exists in our time, now we have quick form text. And it's hard for kids to even read a few paragraphs without feeling fatigued. And that is part of the problem. They simply aren't practicing reading longer text. The irony of it all is that the novel, if the students can comprehend the novel, it would not harm their ability to read short form text. I would think, and I know for a fact in my own classroom data, that the kids who read novels do better on state tests. So I've never quite understood that correlation, but here we are. With that in mind, I want to recommend some books for you to give to your students at home today, because unfortunately you can't really control what's happening in the classroom if your child goes to public school, but you can encourage reading at home, and you may not know where to start. And so I want to make sure that I'm suggesting books that your middle school level kid might want to read, that's been a classic, that's timeless, that many students enjoy. And so you are starting with a book that has a higher probability of them liking. So the first book I want to recommend is The Giver. This is a classic. It is a dystopian novel about this boy named Jonas who lives in a perfect utopian society. There's no racism, there's no murder, nothing is going bad in the society, no one's going hungry, everyone is housed. It is a perfect world. However, they are in a world of sameness. There's no uniqueness, there's no race. There's no differences between people. And so it's talking about the price of freedom and the price of safety, and how do we go about in society balancing those two things. It's an excellent story that middle schoolers love, even upper elementary students love, and high schoolers love. I actually read it in college, so it is such a good book that it can reach but upper elementary children all the way up to college and adult level. It is a fascinating read. It will get you questioning things. It is a little slow-paced, but every child I know of who's read it really enjoyed it. Another novel that you might want to give to your child is The Hunger Games. It's a movie, and I know a lot of people are like, don't watch the movie, but I actually encourage my reluctant readers to watch the movie adjacent to reading the story. I think it's great to compare movies to the text. And you can compare and contrast. Well, why did they take this scene out? Why did they keep it in? Why did they have it in the book? Why did they omit it from the movie? Or why did they add a new scene from the movie? And how is it different from the movie to the book? Did the message of the story, did the lesson of the story stay the same? Did it change? And so, if you have a reluctant reader, this is a great one because they will have a movie to go with it that's been in popular demand. And they can have a visual. I'm finding that students lack imagination, and I really do think it's because in their foundational years, many of them have been given an iPad, and so they're not practicing imagining what exists in the mind. Now, I understand there are some people who've never been able to conjure up the mind's eye. I don't think it's those people's fault at all. That's beyond their capabilities. Everyone's mind is different. But for most human beings, we can conjure up an image in our mind. We can imagine what's happening in a story. But if we don't practice that skill, it's not going to happen. So by adding a movie to this, it really helps the text come alive. It's great. So I am not anti-movie at all. There's also a movie that goes with The Giver that's really well done, but it does not follow the novel at all. And it can be very disappointing to students when they watch the movie because it does not match the text. And in some of my students' opinions, it changes the meaning of the story. So that's always interesting to talk to them about. I read this story a while back. I'm not even going to lie, I don't remember everything about it, but it is an excellent quick read. It has, it's a short, as you can tell, a lot of images that go with it, but it is an excellent story that talks about grieving and death and life and how those ideas intermingle. Very good story. I believe that there is a movie that goes along with this as well, but I have not watched it. The Skin I Am In, I read last summer. It was an excellent read about colorism. And it does not matter. I think people see a black person on the cover and they go, that's not for me because I'm not black. But that is just simply not true. The beautiful things about literacy is that you get to step into the lives of other people who are not like you, and you grow empathy. And so by reading this book, you can understand that people in the black community face colorism and what that might feel like for them, in addition to societal racism and other things that happen. And so it's very interesting. It's about a girl who is, I believe she's a high school student, and she kind of does not jive with her teacher. Her teacher has discoloration of her skin, and then the student is particularly dark skinned, and so they both face the colorism within their community, which is unfortunate, but they both kind of work together to talk it out and figure out, how to overcome these obstacles and the dangers of that. I have not read Refugee, but I know enough students who have read it and they love it and they enjoy it. In fact, anything by Gratz, kids love. He takes historical events and puts a fictional character inside of them. So not only are they learning a story that is compelling and fictionalized, but they're simultaneously learning about history, which is abundantly needed. Oftentimes, I don't know if parents know this, but history and science will be embedded into the reading and mathematics portion of the curriculum. And a lot of people believe that works, but I know a lot of people who also do not think that works because they're not getting in explicit instruction all the time, because the focus is so heavily in reading and math, since those are the two tested areas. And so by having your child read a fictionalized historical novel, they're simultaneously learning about history and completing a reading skill. So my son likes these books. They're done very well. My husband's a history teacher. He likes them as well because they're factual about the historical events that are happening, but then it's on a level where a child could understand what it's like to be a refugee or to go through World War II, Pearl Harbor, all those kind of things. I read this graphic novel. Excuse me, I know that made a weird noise. I read this graphic novel this past school year. It was an excellent quick read, and I am totally not anti-graphic novel at all. I think it's great. Again, kids need to work on their imagination skills, and to have a visual go along with the text is super helpful. It gives them visuals that they might not otherwise have. The Mexikid is an excellent story about a Hispanic boy and their journey as a family, and it's just very appropriate to what's going on in the United States and what it's like to be in someone else's shoes that you might not be in. I am not Hispanic, but I'm more understanding and empathetic to someone who is not like me. And then the last one I have is The Bridge Home. This is a very short and quick story, so again, it will help kids who have a short attention span. But it is about these kids in India. They are orphans. They are struggling within the slums of India and trying to survive. It's a very sad story, but again, this opens up our eyes to a place that we've never been before. I've never been to India, but I had to learn a little bit about Hindu. I had to learn a little bit about Indian culture and cuisine in order to understand this book, and that is it's priceless. It's priceless. So those are what I'm recommending today. There's plenty of more books that students could read, but those are the ones that I know captivate children. They're kind of easier reads. They are not as intimidating as some other reads. And also, I want to encourage you to read with your kids. We encourage elementary students to read with their parents and parents to read with them, but I will read to my children until they're adults. My husband and I read together. I read to my second grader, or he's about to be a third grader actually, and I read to my first grader. I read to my 2-year-old. It's important to make sure that you are creating a culture of reading, because if they see you not reading, well, that's not important. And so we have to make sure that we're cultivating that. And you might not like to read, but you are investing in your child, into their intelligence and into their mind. And by doing so, you can invest in yourself. Because you may not have been a reader. Maybe your English teacher made you feel stupid because you couldn't read or you couldn't write. I hate to hear of those stories that happen, but unfortunately they do. There are scorned teachers who honestly don't love children, and they're in the classroom, and it makes me sad. But I hope that you can push that to the side and realize the value of education and the importance of reading to your children, whether it's from the womb all the way to college. It's so beneficial, and people who progress in life, they are the ones reading. All right, well, that's all I have for y'all today. Thank you for listening to me. If you have any questions about any of the books or any more recommendations that you would like, let me know in the comments. And if you like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. I would love to offer more information that I have and knowledge to you. All right, y'all have a great day.